Welcome to Fathers Unfiltered. This is the podcast that allows separated fathers to tell their story. We've got today's guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Stephen. 50 years old now. Do you want me to go through?
Yeah, how many kids you got? What their ages?
With my previous wife, got two children, 19 and 17. My current partner I'm with, I've got a little boy who's 4 and two stepchildren who are 16 and 13.
Okay, so you got a few kids there.
Yeah.
How long was you with your ex for?
10 years. We were 10 years in total. I was married for 8. Got married at, it was about 31 when we got married.
And how long have you been separated?
10 years now.
Okay.
I've been with my current partner, I'd say 8.5 years. Married for coming up to 5 years now.
Okay, so you're quite a ways on the other side, really. I mean, it'd be really interesting to hear how that is. So, 20 or so years ago, can you take us back to the day that you met your ex-partner? How did that go?
It was weird because I wasn't really. I mean, I was with a girl when I was from 18 till I was 26. That ended, and basically because I lost my eye when I was 18 in an accident. So kind of from 26 to 30, I didn't really. I just went back into my training because I'd done martial arts for numerous years, and it was a night out with the martial arts club that I met my current partner, my ex-partner at the time. Got on well, moved in pretty fast because we was both single, and it was kind of, the whirlwind. Yeah, within 6 months she was pregnant and then was planning to get married, so it was kind of moved. And I thought, she's pregnant, let's get married, this is it, I'm 30.
So you moved in together?
Yeah,
Okay.
So it was quite a fast get together, I suppose. She'd already been previously married twice, which I found out as we got together. But everything seemed normal. She had 2 children, Nick and Georgina. There was, I think what the ages were. I think Georgina was about 6, Nick was about 10 at the time. And we got together. So.
Yeah. So you've been together about 6 months, you've moved in, and you've now got a baby on the way.
Yeah.
Pretty shortly after.
Yeah.
And this is your first child.
Yeah, it was my first child, yeah.
What was that run-up of pregnancy?
It was all good, I suppose. Looking forward to it because I was, I'd done all my lads things, Club 18 to 30s, done all that. I was 30, nice time to settle down, I suppose. So it was going, I suppose, good at the time.
Okay.
Didn't really notice anything out the extraordinary for a while. And there was a couple of things, like certain things you pick up on that, hang on, this isn't like kind of controlling or... I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, I have lots of life, but I suffered for years of mental abuse, sometimes physical. I'd left, previous to actually leaving the marriage, I'd already left 12 months prior for about 6 or 7 weeks. Then got back on the process of things to get better, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Which they didn't. So, but over that time, I suppose the major alarm bells for me was about a week before my wedding. We'd had a bit of an argument, and literally I was out, and she text messaged that she was going to basically end her and the kids, if you know what I mean, her own 2 children that she had, not mine, because she was still.
Okay.
So I showed it to my mum and dad, and they was like, right, we'll stay here, we'll show it to the police and let them make the decision. So basically showed it to the police officer. They took it, obviously, when they saw it, to... it was on a long main road where we lived. The police station was actually in front. We was at the back. So basically, as I was going to the house, the police stopped me on the road at the top. They wouldn't actually let me down to the house. But I could see, obviously, the house. So they obviously took the thing seriously. But she was at the window. She wouldn't let the coppers in. Then she let them in. So it was just all a bit of a game, if you know what I mean. So it was kind of... It was a week before my wedding. We've got a baby on the way. And it was like...
Is this still your first child?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is all really soon.
Yeah. And it was kind of... Was I going to call the wedding off? Was I not? And it was kind of, you know, we had all the, it was hormones and stuff like that, and you put it down to certain things, and then everything was great. We got married, and didn't really have any other issues for a while, if you know what I mean. It kind of, that was it.
So how you're probably about a year into the relationship at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got married, and then just after you had the pregnancy, you had the birth.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
Birth was amazing. Proud day, happy day. Was in with the birth with her. It was great.
Went smoothly?
Yeah. No issues. And it was kind of, everything was great. Got married, that was great. Then found out she was pregnant again, and then Connor was born. And I would say happy days for quite a few years, really. Never even come across anything as such. Then it was, you get... I don't know, it's hard to explain how she was. She was very, very, very clever how she did things. Some things I didn't see till... Well, didn't even get told about until we'd actually finished, if you know what I mean. It's like my mum saw a lot of stuff, but obviously she didn't say things because...
That can cause issues between yourselves.
So she, you know, it was one of them to find out for yourself. And because like even the night before my wedding, my mum even said to me, "You don't have, you know, nobody will think bad of you if you don't go through with things." And she didn't really actually say anything, but it was a weird talk to have with my mum, if you know what I mean.
It's not the talk that you expect on a wedding.
No, but she'd obviously seen a lot of things that I hadn't, if you know what I mean, or put to the back of my mind. And it's kind of stuff like I get milkshakes thrown in my face. I had a wine glass thrown across the room which smashed on the side of my head. All these things which people don't see.
So that's not normal stuff.
No, I mean I've even gone to bed. I mean I've took my new partner knows. I mean I've even lied in bed at night where I've had a nail shoved in my back, chunk, you know what I mean, scratches, flesh pulled out, punched, called names when she was been drunk, and I've just let her go to sleep. I've just, you know what I mean. I put up with worse, and I wouldn't have put up with that off somebody in the ring when I used to compete. You know what I mean? But it was my wife.
What made you not respond to it?
Shock, I suppose. It was like, is this really happening to me, or I wouldn't put up with it normally, or... You
wouldn't, to be fair, if a guy did that to you.
Well, he wouldn't.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And it was kind of, I don't know, and it was like, I used to think to myself, well, it'll be over in a minute or two because she's drunk, she'll go to sleep. And then I used to go down in the morning with the kids, watch telly, and then she'd surface at dinner time, and then there'd be apologies, and then you'd go along, and it was like, after so many times, the apologies just don't cut it, if you know what I mean. But as I'd seen what happened to Nick and Georgina with their dad, how she was with them, it was hard because I knew my kids would be used as weapons against me as soon as I did leave. So it's kind of, I stayed for years longer than I should have done. Even my own close friends used to see it. And I think one of the main seeing points for me was, I mean, my mum stopped coming around to the house because she wouldn't come round. And then it got to a stage where my dad wouldn't even come into the house. He used to turn up, but he wouldn't come in. And I had my 40th birthday party. I had a do organised. My mum and dad didn't come, my sister didn't come. A few of my close friends hadn't turned up. And one of my closest friends who was there, and he was basically said, look at the state of this room. And I went, what? He said, it's empty. I said, well, he said, it's not because of you. And he said, a few years ago, he said, you'd have filled this room. And it was kind of an epiphany for me at that point. It was like, you know, do I want to be here in another 10 years celebrating my 50th with, you know what I mean? And it was different. It got to a stage where I'd had enough. And it was like I'd been punched. Even she told a friend she'd even hit me numerous times. I mean, I was used to getting hit anyway, so it didn't really hurt me as such. But
yeah,
it's the mental side of it, I suppose. And it was kind of, I got to a point where she wanted to go away on holiday with a friend. I was like, well, who's looking after kids? Because I've got a full-time job. Well, you can have them. I said, I can't have them. I said, because... And then next minute, she said, friend's going to help up the street. She's going to have them after school, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, with no money, you're not going. And next minute, she'd booked the holiday because she'd taken money out of my business account. She'd gone on holiday. And then I think it was about 3 or 4 days in. There was no food in. I was like, has the tax credit's gone in so I can buy some food for the kids? She went, no payments have gone in. Go and get some off friends up the street. I said, well, I'm not doing that. So I ended up going with mum and dad's with the kids for tea. And I did that on the Thursday, Friday and the Saturday. I think the Monday morning, there was a letter through the door. And it was from tax credits thing. I don't usually get involved, so I opened it up. But she'd had a payment in on that Thursday for 1,400 quid into the bank. But while she was on holiday, she was having tattoos done and spending, and like I was scrimping to get the kids first. So that was it for me. Yeah. I thought as soon as she landed, I was done.
So let's take it back a little bit till just after your first child was born.
Yeah.
How was life like for you as a first-time dad?
It was great. I loved it.
Is it what you expected?
I didn't know. I didn't really know what to expect, to be fair. I loved every minute of it, to be fair. It was great. Everything was shared. I used to, I suppose...
Did you do all the night feeds?
I did quite a few, but she did breastfeed for a while, but then she stopped because I suppose these are things I should have seen. I mean, she stopped breastfeeding purely because I was getting rest and she wasn't. So it got to a stage where you're getting up doing the bottles, but even though I was getting up at 6 a.m. to go to work and she was, do you know, that should have been a sign for me. But at the time, you don't see things, do you? Or you don't want to see things. But I suppose that got to a stage where then I was getting up doing night feeds and going to work as well. Because she basically quit a job as soon as the baby was born. So it's kind of all put onto me as a breadwinner as well as everything else. But I suppose, I mean, now you point certain things out, you can see them. But at the time, you don't see certain like red flags, I suppose.
It's true, yeah. When you look at everything, things start to stand out, really.
Yeah.
As a little bit different.
Yeah.
So everything's going well. You're enjoying your time with your kid. From that point, you're about a year or so into a relationship, probably around 14 or so months. What was, I'd say, the next significant bit from there? I know you talked a little bit before, after you had your first child.
As in?
Just, I'd say, main event that kind of sticks out with you.
I think the point on, I mean, like you're saying, you used to get certain things of that control coming through, I suppose. I mean, a lot of my friends didn't. I wasn't going out, and basically I stopped doing my Thai boxing, which I'd loved for years, because she didn't want me going out, or it was like, well, I'm going doing this, you're looking after the children. So it was kind of, I just basically, I wasn't bothered. I was looking after my children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't see things actually what's evolving. And I suppose I was coming in from work. I was doing washing up. I was making the teas, even though she was at home all day. That sort of thing. And a lot of the time, I'm not laid back. I just did it. Do you know what I mean?
You're not the first one. I've had a few guys that just end up saying
you just do it, don't you?
They go through the rigmarole, and before they realise it, feels like they're doing a lot.
Yeah.
As well as working full time. And
well, yeah. And I suppose, like, I saw red flags with the other two stepchildren that was living with us at the time. I mean, Nick moved in with his dad, and kind of Georgina kind of went that way at a later stage. But you saw certain things, if you know what I mean, that she tried to do with Robert, which was their dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I never got involved because, I mean, it was nothing to do with me, if you know what I mean. Robert was well before. I mean, she did try to get that conflict, but it wasn't happening because I had nothing against Robert well before my time, because she'd already been married after him again, if you know what I mean, before me.
So he's not even like the previous, it's the previous.
Yeah,
it's
to be fair, Robert, I mean, was a great guy, do you know what I mean? Whether he saw things a lot sooner than I did and got out earlier doors, if you know what I mean. But he had his own family, he had a farm. He seemed a nice enough guy to me, do you know what I mean? Never had a beef with him. But like you say, all the little red flags, like with a wine glass across the room, it smashed on the side of my head, that sort of thing. Been chased with the metal bars out of the baby gate and stuff like that. It's just, you know, but things you just put to the back of your mind. And I got to a stage where I thought, well, this is it. This is my life.
Yeah.
Because I knew my kids were going to be used as weapons, if you know what I mean. But it got to a stage where it was, I suppose, if I'd stayed in that marriage, would it have killed me off? Do you know? Because I wasn't myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you were
was walking around in a depression, and you know,
a shell of yourself to exist. So how far off from the first child was the second child? Was that a few years?
Connor's 17 in November, Tanya's 20 in November, so it was like a couple of years between them.
Okay, so it's not a huge amount of time.
No. Was
there any difference in the run up to the second child?
Not really, because like you say, you used to have the bad stuff, and then it used to be great for weeks, months, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you kind of forgot, and then something else would raise up or flare up, and it was just like you got to a stage where you never bothered asking to go out anywhere or go and see your mates because it just weren't worth the aggro, so you just didn't do it, if you know what I mean.
I get that.
So you kind of just, it was my kids. So
how was the birth of the second child?
That was a great moment. Like I say, I was in for both births. I suppose it was quite difficult for a while because I was working away as well, but then I stopped for a bit because he was premature. I think he was about six weeks early, I think. But he was fully grown. He just had a bit of jaundice, so he was in an incubator, but he only just fit in because he was massive, basically. So it was, I suppose, the weeks he was in there, it was very hard to get, I suppose, that bond, if you know what I mean.
I get it.
I mean, I've got one now, it's great, but it was hard at the time. But then that was great.
So once your second child came home, what was the day-to-day life like once you'd, I guess, returned back to work and now you've got 4 kids in the house?
Well, when I think Nick had already, when Connor was born, I think Nick had already moved to his dad, because Nick was about 16, I think then. Yeah, he was. So he'd moved to his dad's anyway, so there was only like 3 of us at the time. It was fine, because, I mean, she was off work, so she didn't work, so it was kind of, I went back to work, she looked after the kids. So it wasn't really...
Was you and your ex getting on well?
It didn't really not get on, if you know what I mean. It was... Everything was... It was only like the last few years when things started to go... Well, obviously, I suppose things started to get worse because I kind of found a voice to it. So it was like, instead of sitting back and taking the crap, I basically started to...
Speak up?
Yeah, basically. So that kind of then, if you know what I mean, it was like bat and ball kind of thing. But I got to a stage where I couldn't be bothered, so I kind of started working later, so I didn't want to go home. And it was just, it was like it's hard to put on the person that she was, but I mean, there was a couple across the street, I'm not mentioning their names, but we got really friendly with them. They were quite young. And one of the lads I used to go to football matches with, and we were supposed to be going to the wedding, and she kind of fell out with the girl over something and nothing, which then escalated into stuff, and it was hard because they kind of like fell out, even though me and Lee didn't. I said his name, but so every time I was coming down that street, there was something else happening, if you know what I mean. So it was kind of mad times. To the point of like, even she'd broke into her mum's email. She had mum's emails, so she was sending emails to her mum because her mum's partner was cheating, if you know what I mean. So she actually put the information in there so he could see what she was doing. So she caused all that, but she got off on that sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So she was causing commotions on the street with other people, and I was like coming home to that, and it was nothing to do with me, but you get kind of dragged into the drama of it all. And it was just, like you say, it got to a head where I'd had enough of it all, to be honest. And I left.
So what, I guess, was it that situation that kind of brought you up to leave? How far after?
It was all of it together, to be fair. And then obviously, like I said, that time where she'd gone on holiday, and then I was scrimping for the kids when she lied. She'd already had the money in the account, but obviously we had separate accounts and stuff. And that was the final cherry on the top for me, if you know what I mean. So that was it. I'd done and left. And that's when the fun started, to be fair.
So, say it's the day that you left. How did that day go? Or how did it actually happen?
I just basically said I was moving out. I'd had enough. That was it. Obviously, the children didn't want me to go. They was crying and stuff, but I said I'd keep in touch all the time, which I was trying to do, trying to stay friends with it, but it was not happening.
How did she respond to it?
Quite aggressive at the start, and then it was like trying to be friends, and then it was like, you can come and babysit for the kids while I'm going out. I'm staying at a friend's, so I was like, okay. So I'd stay at the house with the kids, but then she'd come back early and try and rekindle, if you know what I mean, even though she was staying out. And it was just, and then when I wouldn't, it was like, then she started getting aggressive, so I left. And it was that sort of thing, but then when she realised it was at her head, I mean, I went working for on a kind of a busman's holiday. My friend had a house in France. So I went out there for 2 weeks, and that's when all the fun started, basically. She'd moved another lad in the house who was an absolute idiot, who we knew anyway. 10 years her junior, who'd just split up with his own wife. It was...
That's fun on fun.
And then I got pictures on there of him in the jacuzzi with my kids, and it was just like, what's going on? Kind of, she was just leaving the kids overnight with people that shouldn't be leaving them overnight with. That sort of thing.
How did you respond when you saw some of that stuff?
I kind of just got in touch with the police, because I thought, if I go up there, I'm just going to lose my shit and get banged up, and
it's
it'd be not good for anybody. So it was kind of hard, but the police weren't very, very understanding with stuff. It got to a stage where, like I said, I was ringing the social services up. I got the court order in place. Spent a fortune doing that. Then I realised it weren't worth the paper it was printed on, because every time you go into the police and they go, yeah, it is a criminal offence, but it is civil. And then I had the bat and ball with social services saying, if you think they're not being safe, to keep them with you. Then ringing the police up and they're saying, we'll arrest you if you do that. And then you're going back to social services and they're saying, no, the police shouldn't be telling you that.
So you're getting contradictions between two different services.
All the time. And then the schools, I mean, at the time, my youngest was at the junior school and my eldest was at the senior school. So we was in pastoral and chatting at the junior school, and obviously they was in touch at the senior school because they're sister schools. So they knew the situation when my youngest was starting senior school. So they knew everything about it. And we was going in, having chats with them. And then it got to a stage where I heard nothing for months and months and months and months.
No updates from the school?
Nothing from the school. And then my sister still lived in the same area. And I got talking and she went, you do know your children aren't in school, don't you? And I went, what do you mean they're not in school? She said, well, they don't go to school anymore, they've been unenrolled. And I was like, really? I don't know nothing about this. And this was in the end of January. And they've been unenrolled in I think it was the September.
This January just gone?
No. It was,
January. Okay.
Well, they were 12 and 14, so 17 and 19.
Okay, so it's a while ago.
So, basically, yeah, so it was in the September they got enrolled. The January, I found out of my sister, so I rang the school up, and that's when they basically said, oh, they're no longer at this school, you'll have to take it up with mum. And I went, well, you know the situation with mum. I mean, I've not gone into a lot of stuff, but we could be here for hours.
Yeah.
She'd been on a police pins notice with a new partner because we've had a car covered in brake fluid and that sort of stuff. So they were on a police pins notice, so obviously I'd never had any contact with mum whatsoever. What's
a pins notice?
Basically, it's like one step away from shiny handcuffs, basically. So if they did anything else...
Effectively a warning.
A warning, basically. Yeah. So they couldn't come anywhere near us or send any more emails or messages and stuff like that. So they knew the situation and the school wouldn't give it... Well, obviously they didn't give any information and they said take it up with mum. So they knew the situation and I said, well, I can't take it up with mum. You know the situation, so I'm taking it up with the school. And lo and behold, it come down that I've been allowed to be put down as third contact. So that's why they hadn't contacted me. And I was like, well, who's put me down as third contact? When he knew the situation, how's that been allowed? Which they kind of dismissed off. And that's when the headmistress was basically saying they didn't know where the children were. Take it up with mum, this is that, and this. They've gone. So obviously my new partner worked in school. So she knew that wasn't the protocol, because if they wasn't in school, they would have had to have a transfer of education or a missing in education report filed, so they knew where the children were. So obviously I fired that email back to the school. And after a few times, that's when they basically put on the email that mum had unenrolled him out of school. And that was the situation. So basically take it up with mum. I couldn't get them then back into school because the situation, what it was, because all the paperwork I had to file, then I had to physically take them to school. But obviously I wasn't seeing the children. I'd not seen them Tanya I've not seen since she was 12. So she's 19 now. So it's like 7 years.
You still not seen her?
No. Completely poisoned. I've just started seeing my son, who's 17 now. So he's kind of realised who's been telling the lies and all the situations, what have been going on. But yeah, been difficult.
I can only imagine.
I've had, part and parcel of stuff. I'm not going into too much detail because there was a court case. And basically I worked for myself. I'd done a job for a client who basically started taking the mick. Refused to do any more till I got paid. So then she set up a Facebook group, got in touch with my ex-wife. And then it was like somebody throwing petrol on it. So there's a Facebook group set up against my company. I had people turning up at my house. I had to get security at my own wedding. There was pictures put on my business vehicle, the vehicle my current partner was driving around in, the registration plates, time she was dropping them off at school. This was all put in the group.
Were the police contacted about this?
Police have had 92 crime reports. We've even been in the station to give statements. They were supposed to be arresting them, then they never did. Then we was on personal email terms with the Chief Inspector of Greater Manchester Police. Even he had to put down the paperwork because it was making his blood boil, what he was reading.
Did they get to the bottom of who had done it?
Oh, they knew he'd done it, but basically, because he was being very clever with stuff, he said you need 100% to get a CPS prosecution, and we only had about 98%. So he said if you took it to a civil court, you'd win hands down, which we did. But obviously it cost me best part of 10 grand to get it into court. And the reason the police said, because you need 2 counts of the same thing to be criminal, but because it was all one count of everything, and because it was in a private group and wasn't direct at me and my current partner, that it wasn't directly threats or criminal, so they couldn't do anything. Even though people was writing in there, have gone burn his house down. And
I'm sure there's rules around doxing people and incite.
Well, I believe we've been through it for two and a half years. Yeah. We went through it before I got it in Manchester Crown. And then they settled out of court. Because it was going to cost me more money to pursue.
Did you recoup what it cost you on the court? Sort
of. But it was just all out the way, if you know what I mean. I could have pursued it and got a criminal conviction, but then it'd cost me more money, and then I might not have been able to recoup it. And then
I think at that point, once you're going for criminal, it shouldn't cost you anything because it's police matter.
But the police weren't doing it. It was us doing it civil. We'd get the same outcome, but the police wouldn't. Probably because it wasn't in their resources to do. Do you know what I mean? But honestly, it got to a stage where it was coming into court and he was still doing stuff, and a police officer come round for the last time, and to be perfectly honest, he was the only one who'd actually read what had been happening for 2 years, and he went, right, you've got it in court on such a date. I said, yeah, I've taken her. He said, right. He said, well, this needs to stop. So he was basically went round. He said, I don't care what's going on, what's happening. He said, I'm telling you to stop now, and if you don't, we'll arrest you. And that was after 2 years that somebody had actually finally done something, basically.
Did it all stop then?
Kind of, but then she uses other people to... You still get bits of stuff now, but she kind of uses other people to do it, if you know what I mean. She doesn't kind of do it herself.
Very spiteful.
Oh yeah, it's just silly games, and you get used to it now. But that's what happens. That's what she's like. 10 years on, she's still
I know you said 10 years on and
Still does things. Yeah.
you're still getting this. You've managed to remarry. You've had, is it another
A
child?
little boy, yeah, he's 4. Great little lad.
And you've
Current
still
partner's
got
amazing.
this sort of,
Yeah, still got it. Still got the fight with child support because she's still falsely claiming child benefit, and you know they won't invest because basically I'll go, well, we got this and that. Why can't you? Oh, we don't have the powers to investigate. I said, well, you can investigate me and go in my bank account and see what I'm earning. So
Yeah.
why can't you investigate her? Do you know what I mean? It's just
so it becomes about the mum. They never seem interested in.
yeah, they're not
Pursuing it.
interested in pursuing just easy targets. And you know, it's like you say, things need to change with the whole system of for dads. You know, I can see why a lot of them take their own lives. I mean, I was lucky I met somebody who's, you know, been my rock, to be fair.
How did you meet your new partner?
It was a strange. It was it was quite a strange thing. I mean, my daughter. It's when my daughter used to dance. It was her teacher, but we kind of didn't really speak to each other while she was there. It was kind of after, and it was kind of. I mean, I suppose for a while we was just chatting. Nothing really happened, and then we found out because her ex-partner he's on another level. So we kind of had a lot in common, and that's where kind of ballooned really.
Ballooned up or reminisced over ex?
I suppose, and we kind of just, you know, got together. It was just,
Who had the worst ex?
yeah. I mean, we didn't even really have the conversation with her children. Like, this is my new partner. It just kind of, they got used to me seeing me around, and it was kind of just, well, and it was like, where have you been all my life? Do you know what I mean? We had so much in common. And we got on like house on fire. It was mad.
No, it's great to hear that.
And we got 2 years later, we got married. And 10 years nearly now.
I think a lot of people will be happy to hear that you can, you know, you can sort of move on from it, and even though your ex is still in the periphery,
Still tries. Suppose my current partner's ex tries certain things. I suppose it's because the way I look at it is, I think they know what they've lost and they're sad in their own lives, if you know what I mean.
I get that.
Knowing that they're probably not going to find what they've lost. But, you know, that's their lookout, not mine. And we just take it in our stride, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's good that you're, you know, happy in your situation now, remarried with kids, and your youngest with your ex, you said he's 17.
Yeah, I suppose the good thing of it all, I mean, Nick, who's I think Nick's about 35, 36 now, was the eldest of who I brought up with my ex. He actually come to my 50th do the other week. My missus invited him, and he come with his new family. But he has nothing to do with his mum, and doesn't even let his own mum see his grandkids.
That's interesting.
But he basically come to my 50th, in touch with him, and like, you know, I suppose that's a nice thing that he's obviously his own dad's passed away, but it's kind of nice that he's in touch with me, and he's basically knows what his own mum was like, if you know what I mean. Which kind of says it all, really.
No, it's good that you've still got a relationship with him.
I don't see anything of the daughter, but she's kind of all for a mum. But they don't have, Nick and Georgina don't have a good relationship either way, because I suppose I've found that out with a lot of, because my Tanya and Connor, my youngest two, they don't have, they used to have a great relationship, but they don't now. And I suppose I can see that with my current partner, her 2 children, that her ex is trying to cause that rift between them as well. And I think that's what they do a lot of the times to try and get that control back in their favour. They try and use the children and get the siblings to fall out. I mean, it's just
Yeah, rather than
they
just
don't stop. You know,
rather than just moving on.
That's just the way they are, I think. Unfortunately.
No, but it seems we've come pretty much to present day relatively quickly. Before I get into the questions, how does, I guess, the outlook look for you now?
I suppose it's just a case of waiting. Like my mum always said, don't worry about something that you can't control, because it'll make you ill. And I've kind of just, I suppose, children are longer and adults than they are children. So I've got to, obviously, Connor's starting to come in back now. And I've just got to believe and hope that my daughter will at some stage. But, you know, I've got a young 4-year-old there who needs a dad, do you know? And I'm bringing him up, and my 2 stepkids that I have now are great. I get on with them.
How is it now being a parent to a young child again after doing it so many years? What is it, 20 years later?
Yeah, fun.
And you've
both done it all again, yeah. Because our youngest is 13 as well, so we've kind of both...
I mean, you must enjoy it now, but you're a little bit older.
I think he gets away with
slower.
a lot more now because he's kind of spoilt. Because we're both a lot more, I suppose, relaxed with it. And we've done it all over again, if you know what I mean. So he does get kind of spoiled. But yeah, it keeps me on my toes, I suppose. And sometimes you think, oh, have I done this again? But no, he's kind of at an nappy stage and everything else. He's a toilet trained. He's going to the toilet. He's quite a clever 4-year-old, to be fair.
Yeah, he'll be coming into his. It's about. Well, he's sort of coming to that age now, 5, 6.
Yeah, I
7.
suppose because he was born and bang on COVID as well, on lockdown. She's been with him all the time because she works for a school as well. So it was like she was off. She was on maternity and then she was off, and there's 2 older kids who she homeschooled as well. So he's kind of like, he's missed the baby stage altogether. He's very, very clever. He knows all his letters, his words, his spells. He's mad because you can have a full-on conversation with a 4-year-old kid.
Yeah.
He's nuts.
They're their own little person at that point.
Yeah, I mean, he knows you can open a book, he knows all the dinosaurs, he knows all the names, he can pronounce them all, he picks them. He's just like, I can't even pronounce half the stuff he comes out with. He's mad. But yeah, he's a good little character.
No, that's great. Because we're pretty much up to present day and we've gone through it, we've sort of covered over most parts. I've got a few questions just to kind of wrap it up. So we sort of touched on this before. Looking back, did you notice any red flags?
Yeah, there was just, like I was going on, there was just a couple, like I said, at the time, the week before the wedding with the police incident, and then obviously now I look back on, like you say, with stopping breastfeeding, so I started doing the night feeds and stuff like that, and obviously the wine glass being thrown, and then it just steady progressed, I suppose. But yeah, there's a couple at the time, but like I say, you brush them off and then you hope things will get better, and then it just goes worse. When
that happened, did you speak to anyone? Did you discuss it with a friend?
Not really.
Relative?
No, it was just my mum and dad. Obviously, I was at their house. I stayed at their house the first time that happened. And then that was it. I didn't really talk about anything else, to be fair. To nobody, really. I mean, it's mad because when I did actually split up, one of my good friends I didn't see for must have been about 5 or 6 weeks. I bumped into him and he was like, wow, he said, look at you. And I was like, what do you mean, look at me? He said, look at you. I said, what? He said, you stood up straight, you're walking, you're smiling. He said, it's like the whole world has just gone from your shoulders. And you're like, really? But you don't notice them things that people do, you know what I mean? Because like you say, you used to be walking around, slouch your head down, and you don't notice it yourself. But people notice things. It's mad, isn't it?
Well, it's, what is it? So much of communication isn't actually the words or that you speak. It's your actions. So, one which I was going to ask was going to be, does what you've been through, where you mentioned about stuff like having the glass thrown at you, when you first left the relationship, was you hesitant about getting into another one for a while?
I can't really answer that one as such, because I suppose I met my current partner quite quickly. Not that I knew of it, it was just that I got talking really fast and it was like I'd known her all my life. I suppose mainly, I mean, there was a couple of incidents where I think I was in the kitchen, I was stood behind, I was chatting away, and she's one of the tops off the bread, you know, the plastic things, what you used to hold the bread thing on.
Oh yeah.
It drops on the floor. I think we was having a conversation about something, and she turned around and stood on it. I can't even think, we might have been having a little quarrel over something. Not even a quarrel as such, but I think as she turned around, she stood on it, and she like, as she turned around, because she stood on this toggle on the floor, and I kind of like cowered, and she like got really upset and cried, and she's like, "What are you cowering for?" And I was like, that was my instinct to like, because I thought she was going to hit me.
Yeah.
Which my current partner, not a chance. But I suppose that was in my subconscious from what I've been used to.
A certain action or a certain thing you expect to be punished or shouted at on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose that was kind of like, wow. And you don't realise these things, if you know what I mean. But I suppose that's the only really thing that's really happened after. But I suppose we do have our own little traits, like my current partner does, is that you know what you've been through, so you won't kind of put up with the same again. So, like, we're pretty much, I suppose, we know what we've had in the past, and we won't put up with it again, if you know what I mean.
One thing, not a lot of people probably see women doing that to guys as being a normal thing, or as if it even happens at all. And sat here seeing you're not a small bloke, you got tattoos. Most people wouldn't assume that'd even happen or take place, but it's more, it does, and it can, and it's regardless of, I guess, the type of this sort of things can happen.
I suppose because I've never fought back, because I suppose my mum and dad have been married, 53 years, and I suppose that's all I've ever been brought up, and all I've ever seen is my mum and dad, if you know what I mean. So I've kind of grown up, I suppose, that way. So I would never ever put my hand to the lady. Do you know what I mean? It's just not in me to do that.
Yeah.
And I never touched her once. And I kind of walked away from it, or tried to walk away, go in a different room, or put myself somewhere else to get away from the situation. Or like I said, I just lied there and let her do what she wanted till she fell asleep. You know what I mean? But it's just easy for me to do that.
If you've got this boundary, which most guys and a lot of guys have, where you don't hit women, and then you have a woman who is quite open to act in a certain way, and the sort of clash, and if you're also, I guess, in the sort of mindset of, we're going to be together, I don't want to leave, and you've seen it where if you do leave, there could be issues with access to your kids, you sort of get a little bit stuck. Where I guess you kind of have to, you feel like you have to take it, which is unfortunate. Did you ever speak to anybody about,
no,
other than?
I'm obviously my current partner knows, But no, not really.
Have you ever?
It's one of them things, isn't it? It's, I suppose, you know, like I say, I've competed in the ring. I've fought a tough sport. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like I wouldn't have put up with it from a bloke. Do you know what I mean? But I did put up with
Yeah,
it.
that's if people that know you, then probably it's like this wouldn't happen to this person. I've seen him, you know, beat guys up, get into fights, and it's like you probably know then what damage you could do if you did respond. So it probably makes you.
I don't, to be honest, I've never, I mean, touch wood, anyway, I've never really used it outside of the ring because I'd sooner, I mean, even like my current partner, I'd say I'm like a gentle giant, sooner walk away from it, not interested. Because the thing is, you look at stuff like that and you see kids doing it, and I look at it, I've been trained to use my hands, feet, and my elbows and knees, and, you know, I don't punch, and it's one of them, if I'm going to be drawn to hit or kick, I'm going to be doing it. It's not a tap.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful who you hit like that, because you do it on the street, you only need to hit somebody in the wrong place or the bang, you're going down for manslaughter. And especially if you've got a license and your hands and feet are registered, then you're going to be in serious trouble. So I'd sooner walk away from it. And that's my nature. It's just, you know, I've done it as a sport and that's what I love doing. But to me, fighting on the street and all that, it's not me. Never has been me. And like I say, I walked away many times from my partner and just tried to go in a different room or take myself away in the car in that situation.
Knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently, either in the relationship or once you've separated? Because I know you went through quite a bit of a tough time once you'd left.
I don't know if there's anything I could have done differently, to be fair. It's an hard one. Because at the time you think you're doing everything you can do, I suppose. And like I say, I used to see the Fathers for Justice stuff and all the dads on TV and this, that and the other, and you used to think, nah, it can't be right, that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then when it actually happens to yourself, then you really realise that what it is. It's mad.
When I used to see it, I was like, but mums and dads have equal rights, they're equal parents. I never understood it, and it's only till you actually go through it, and then you start to hear the stories of everyone. You're like, what? No, this isn't real. You're like, oh, what's that? Oh no, you have no rights at all, even if you were married and they're your kids and there's no history or anything. It's like you have zero rights. You're at the total whim of the mum. 100%. And one false allegation, good luck.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. I've seen it happen to a good friend of mine, and I mean he actually got sent down for, I think it was 6 months for contacting his ex-partner he's with at the time, and even the copper, even the people at the prison were saying there's just so many guys in here for the same reason. And while he was in there, she even messaged him that she wanted to pick him up from once he served his time. And I was like, are you mad? I don't go anywhere near the woman. But she's the one who actually got him put in there, and then she wanted to pick him up. That's how mad some of them are.
Yeah, no, you stay away from that.
I just like, you just
myself up, thanks.
Yeah, just stay away from the girl. Yeah. It's just, it's crazy. It's a crazy system.
Yeah, she wants to stay close to get you back inside.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was watching one. I think I was watching that film the other week of the one in America. Is it the American football player, that Mr. Banks or something, whoever? Oh, a true story where he got sent to. He wasn't that clever, and he got sent down for about 8 years and come out on a tag for raping that. He got accused of raping that girl or something. He was ready to be drafted into the NFL, and he got sent to prison. He come out and he was on a tag, and he couldn't get work, and then basically he got a message popped up on Facebook from this girl who basically admitted that it was all a lie and he hadn't done it. she didn't, her and her mum didn't have to pay. So I think she got awarded about $1.5 million at the time, but she didn't have to pay any of it back. Nothing. She didn't get anything. No charges against her. It was just like
So
you
wrong.
know, and it took him. There was a company I think over there because of that evidence. Even though she admitted it, he could not then go back to court with that. Because of some, it was mad, and there's a whole company set up over America to help people to find a way to get stuff back into court, because of their judicial system of how mad it is, and he didn't get it in on that thing, he got it in on something else, and then he did get acquitted at the end, and he ended up being a pundit for the American football and stuff, but. It was mad that he couldn't actually go direct back to court because she'd admitted it. It was nuts.
It's crazy.
But they do have that power, unfortunately.
Yeah. How was it for you getting married the second time?
Amazing.
Yeah?
To be honest. It's so mad when you chat and speak, and it's like I couldn't even recall real much of my first wedding or what she was wearing on and stuff like that, and it's mad because you say things on fate and stuff like that and do things happen, and at my 40th, my current partner I'm with now, she was at my 40th, but nothing was, she was actually married and with somebody else at the time, and we got chatting a bit back, and it's nuts because I could remember that night what my current partner was wearing, but not what my wife at the time was wearing.
Good priorities.
Yeah, but there was nothing.
Yeah, I know.
There was nothing even. I didn't even start speaking to her till about 14 months later. Yeah?
That's your memory being selective.
It's weird though, isn't it? How you pick up on things, and you're like,
it's keeping the important bits.
but it's like it's so weird. But I suppose my wedding, I was like, I wasn't nervous. It was great. Enjoyed the whole weekend, and it just went so smooth.
Did you have a honeymoon?
We did, yeah. We went to Northumberland with the kids as well. We all went on a caravan up near Edinburgh as well. Went into Edinburgh. That was great.
Nice. I think that's pretty much it. I was going to ask about having another child, but we've already discussed becoming a dad again quite a few number of years later. And I think the last thing that I'll ask is, can you summarise this whole episode in 2 words? And that'll be the name of your episode.
Summarise it in 2 words.
If you struggle a little bit, you can always drop me a message later.
Difficult one, isn't it? Summarise it in 2 words. I would say the future.
Yeah? Go with that. The future. Okay, it's been great having you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been good.